Hey, Machinery Pete here, folks, and I'm with Brendan Kramer with Kramer Auctions Limited out of North Battleford, Saskatchewan. And Brendan, good to see you.
Great to see you, Greg.
And you guys have been knocking it out of the park up there, Brendan, with some farm auctions here in late April. Just fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about the sale you had Saturday, April 27th. It was up near Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, is that right?
That's correct. Just, I guess it'd be between Saskatoon and Dundurn, only about 4 to 6 miles south of the city, I guess.
Okay.
And
Saskatoon is
auctions
kind
like that
of
don't come up to very often.
And Saskatoon is that central Saskatchewan, Brendan?
Saskatoon would be fairly central, and one of the, I guess, kind of the icons of Saskatchewan. Everybody knows where Saskatoon is.
Right. Now this was a farm sale for some brothers, and one had passed away. Is that right, Brendan?
That's correct. It was two brothers that had been on the farm. Their parents settled there in 1915
Wow.
and raised a family of six. And these were two of the brothers that were left, which there are two more brothers two brothers still surviving there.
Okay.
So,
And it was Ken Pfeifer and Vern Pfeifer had just passed away.
yep, Vern passed away just before Christmas, I guess, late
Okay.
fall, early winter. He had passed away. He was started to take it ill in the fall, and I had an opportunity to meet Vern and Ken both when I booked the auction, and a couple colorful, outstanding guys that
Yeah.
it's very, very seldom do you meet two bachelors that have that much character, and
Yeah, that
at
sounds
85 and 87 years old, they're pretty sharp.
right. Well, I know Kim. When you booked the sale quite a while ago, you reached out and told me, "Hey, Pete, you better get up to this sale." And I feel so bad I couldn't make it, but I understand you had just a phenomenal turnout there Saturday. Would you say over 3,000 people?
There would have been over 3,000 people in attendance, and I think,
Wow.
if I'm not mistaken, there's about 600 online.
Okay, that's phenomenal. And you guys have a great website, Brendan. It's kramerauction.com. Is that the website?
That's correct, yeah, kramerauction.com.
Okay.
And, people see time to time the posts that you put on your website and see the information that we put on our Facebook page or on our Twitter account, and it's great.
Well, I'm a big fan of your guys' website, Brendan. I enjoy the way you, on your sale bills, you kind of tell the story of the people who are selling. And I was reading up on Ken and Vern there, and like you say, you mentioned their family going back to 1915. I think that personalizes it for people who maybe don't know them from outside the area, and very smart to do that.
Well, a lot of people from around the area know who they are and kind of know their history, but
Right.
for instance, this auction, there's people coming up out of the northern U.S. There was people there that drove to the auction from Manitoba,
Right.
from Grand Prairie, Alberta, Carstairs, Alberta, all over the place.
And they
And the
came.
people that come ahead of time to look and went home and bid online.
And they came to see some awful nice equipment, Brendan. I counted here. I was just typing in the auction prices. You guys, I think this sale set the all-time record for the number of record auction prices. I counted 9 just from this sale Saturday. So on the tractors, we had our John Deere 8330 '06 model, just under $700. You went 167.5 on that. And then we had the 4250 two-wheel drive at 48.5. Why don't you just talk about the tractors in general, how nice they were?
They had a collection of new and old tractors, right from the 4010, 4020, 3020, right up to the newer 4250 and 7200, and I believe they had the 8330 as well. And all meticulously maintained, mostly original owner kept inside, with the exception of the three older John Deeres. But I know they told me when they bought those three, the 4020, the 4010, and the 3020, that they were very particular on where they bought them from, and they all had to have the power shift. There was no
Okay.
buying anything other than
Right.
that.
And I noticed on the sale bill, Brendan, it said almost in every case one owner and shedded. So
Correct.
the brothers really, obviously, it was a big thing for them to take great care of their all their equipment.
Yeah, and it was a a family farm that was established with a great deal of pride, and come after a lot of hard work when you look at the family history there that you read, raising all of their own product right down to the dairy back in the earlier days. And the two brothers, they raised the dairy cattle there until I think it was into the early 60s, and then they built a Hereford herd of cattle at that time. So they did have a crossover, and their Herefords they kept right up until last year.
Okay. Now, one interesting thing you were telling me, Brendan, on this sale, the guys at the auction and leading up to it, the local John Deere dealer, the salesman who they brothers bought a lot of the equipment from, was very active with you guys, and you kind of brought him forward in the sale to talk about the equipment, I understand?
Yeah, Terry Daneko from Farm and Garden Center, Saskatoon, outstanding guy, great attitude and forward thinking. Maybe not worried about showboating and picking up a customer, but more giving back what he thought was fair after getting 30 years plus of good business from the Pfeifer brothers.
Right.
That's how much the Pfeifer brothers customer relationship meant to Terry.
Right. And I know that that helps a lot too when people are at the sale or in advance of the sale talking, and they can talk to the guy who sold it to them, and they took care of and serviced the equipment. Again, I think that's really smart to do that. Let's talk about some of the other items here. Tell me about this combine, Brendan. 98 model, 9510 Deere, a little over 1,000 engine hours, sold with the 912 header for how much?
$108,000. $108,000, and it climbed up to that figure pretty quick.
Okay.
And multiple bidders on it.
Okay.
And that with the whole auction, it was pretty unique. Being that Ken's 87 and didn't want to be bothered with all the phone calls. Sure. I was handling the phone calls on the entire auction.
Okay.
And, I fielded a lot of calls on nearly every piece of equipment. The combine alone, I probably seen more than 50 calls on the combine itself.
Wow.
And nobody could believe the hours or the condition of the equipment, whether it was the combine or just about anything else in the yard.
What were you hoping going in on that combine? And did you think it would crawl up over 100?
It was hard to say. We looked at some past auction results that we've had in the past, and we've had some of the 95 or 9600s crawl into the 80s and 90s, depending. That would only be if the hours are quite low and a very premium combine.
Right.
This combine here, guys knew that it only combined oats and canola and a little bit of wheat, so they know it had been babied. It had a green light a few years prior, and it's harder to find a combine of that size up here right now.
Right.
And the ones that are out there, more than less of them have 3,000 hours plus on them.
Right.
And to find one like this is pretty special.
And the guys all know what the new ones cost, and that makes a difference too, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there is an element to the smaller farmers left around that's all that they want for a combine. We had some guys that only combined 300, 400 acres in a year. That's all that they wanted. Right. The next guy, it's a good second machine for them, or there's a lot of interest in a lot of different varieties of bidders.
Right. Now we got to talk about these trucks on the sale, Brendan. Yeah, you're laughing, but that's unbelievable. A 1987 Chevy, was it 70?
Chevy 70, yeah.
And it had mileage, it was like 33,000 kilometers on it or something?
Yeah, it was. I'll just find it here for you. I believe it was just over 33,000 kilometers, 163 kilometers on it, and they bought it new and then kept it inside. Never sat outside one night.
And this
They'd
baby,
always make sure that it was parked inside. Yeah.
This baby sold for 45,000.
Yeah, 45,000.
Wow.
And if anybody interested would look at the pictures on the website, it's phenomenal, the condition of that unit. And
you were saying, guys, even when they went underneath the truck, they couldn't, or they thought it maybe been repainted or something, or.
Yeah, there was a few guys that thought it might have been repainted, but I think everybody made their own judgment, and
Right.
the fellas that were really interested in buying could get around and tell that
Yeah.
there was no repainting anywhere, but
Right.
the just appreciated the overall quality of it. They looked in underneath the engine compartment, and
Right.
the cab was perfect. It had the upgraded interior, and
Nice.
there's one nice thing with the way that their equipment was kept. A lot of that older equipment, which some of it is older, but there was no mice in anything, and
Right.
you could tell the headliners were all good.
Yeah.
In that 1966 grain truck,
And that
in
was
the glove
a
box,
Chevy
that was
50, right?
a Chevy 50, yeah. It was
Okay.
a 4 and 2, and that one had the 283, but it was 40,000 original miles, and the doors just clicked just like a new truck.
Wow. And that sold for 13,750.
That's right. Yeah, the bidding started at 10,000 on that one in the crowd, and some guys
That's awesome.
thought that was insane. But
Yeah.
to find another one like it is near impossible.
Right.
And both of the trucks, either the 66 or the 87, you'd be hard pressed to find a stone chip on the front of them.
Wow. They're just
And
beautiful.
that's just the condition that the fellas took care of their stuff.
Right.
The in that 66 Chevy 50.
Yeah.
I looked in I was out the day before and kind of displaying some things at the sale and putting the window placards in, and
Mm-hmm.
I looked in the glove box of that truck,
Yeah.
and I found a 19 bull sale catalog for purebred Hereford bull sale that they must have went to
Okay.
April 22nd, 1966, and they had the bull sale
1966.
catalog in there, and they drove to the sale at Middle Lake, Saskatchewan, and I asked Ken when he came out to the auction if he had they bought a bull at that sale when they drove the truck there with the stock racks on it and brought the bull home. He said nope. He said we never bought one at that sale. They were all too fat. He said, and that was auction day. Just here last Saturday, and,
Wow.
and he remembered that sale. Well, that would be
47 years
nearly
ago.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
And he remembered that those animals were over conditioned, and he didn't buy one.
Well, like you say, the brothers were very sharp operators. They knew what they were doing and very successful. And boy, you guys had some unbelievable prices on the hay equipment here too. Let's start off with that New Holland 1069 Stackcruiser, $49,000, another record price. Beautiful machine, but geez, what were you guys thinking? I mean, you guys are as knowledgeable as anybody on used values, Brendan. But what were you thinking that might sell for?
Well, we sold one back on April the 15th, and that one brought right around $30,000. And like I told you earlier today, it was one that had been brought up out of the U.S. that had been reconditioned, and he had used it for a few years after that, of course.
Okay.
But this one, being original owner, always on that farm, never taken off the farm,
Wow.
it was hard to put a value on something like that. And
Where did the bidding start?
The Terry Deneco was doing the demonstration on that unit, and I was gonna call the bids on it. And once Terry was done his demo, I started introducing the item, and before I could ask an asking price, one of the ringmen, Scott Micklejohn, said he had $20,000 to go, and my brother, just a few feet over, had another bidder, told him that he'd had $30,000 to start.
That was Kim.
So that was Kim, yeah.
Okay.
So we said, well, I said I have $30,000. Let's go take it from there.
Let's rock and roll, huh? Up to 49,000. That's outstanding.
49 and all kinds of interest on that piece of
Right.
equipment. And the two brothers, they farmed. They had 7 quarters of cropland.
Okay.
They had 2 quarters of straight pasture, and their other 2 quarters of hay. They'd only cut the hay on that hay land when they needed it. Otherwise, they would just pasture it.
Okay.
So you can kind of tell how much use most of that equipment got.
Right.
And
Wow.
they said that they would only keep, I think it was 50 to 60 head of purebred Herefords, and just they said they didn't want to focus on quantity. Their focus was on top quality,
Okay.
and that's what they focused on when they bought their equipment, how they maintained their grain farm and all.
Well, and let's talk about that mixer mill, that 1985 New Holland 358. You guys sold it for $15,500. That just blew away the highest price I've seen it on 358. But that thing was just shining. And I noticed,
and it was hooked behind the 4010 in the shed,
okay.
and most of the other equipment was in the steel Quonset. And I went to book the auction last summer. I opened up the doors, and I just could hardly fathom the condition of the equipment. That's how it was when I went there. It was just a little dusty. All it needed was a rinse off.
Right.
And so there wasn't a bunch of reconditioning or painting or shining that went into any of this equipment.
Right.
It was just a simple rinse off and pull it into line to get it ready for the auction.
And the New Holland baler, that 575 at $17,500, 94 model, another record auction price. The John Deere Batwing, the HX15 at $18,500 for a 10-year-old mower. Just, outstanding equipment. And I suppose all this tied together, Brendan, gives a sale like this such momentum. With such quality that, and you guys had already been setting records on some of your recent sales here this last week. Talk about up there in Saskatchewan, Alberta, and you guys cover a huge area for sales. Talk about the demand for good quality used equipment.
The demand is, you can find equipment, but you don't find the premium one owner shedded little use kind of equipment like we had here on that sale at Pfeiffer's.
Right.
That's a pretty rare find. You can find a lot of good quality equipment that's been well maintained.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, as far as the haying equipment and we talked about the tractors, the combine, talked about the trucks, most of the equipment, and we had numerous comments and to myself, to different members of our staff, whether it was our customer service guy that was driving people to and from the parking lot. We had two players, 6-seat Rangers, running people back and forth, and they could hardly keep up. And they'd seen numerous comments, as well as the girls in the office and our ringmen. The guy said, I've never been to an auction that's that well run, which was a compliment to us, and well taken by us. We certainly appreciate the comments, but also on the line of equipment that was on offer that day.
Right.
They said this has to be the most pristine, premium lineup of equipment at an auction I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, 23 and a half years I've been covering sales, Brendan, all over the place, and boy, I haven't run across too many like this. And again, you guys set the record for a number of record prices here. And again, hats off for just another fantastic sale. Machinery,
thank you.
Machinery Pete's a big fan of good folks at Kramer Auction up there. You guys do a great job, Brendan, and congratulations, and keep me posted on what you got coming. And if folks want to check your guys' website out again, Brendan, it's www.kramerauction.com. kramerauction.com.
You bet, and you should check us out tomorrow, May 1st, up at Makwa, Saskatchewan. We have a couple real nice John Deere tractors of very low hours, and another low hour combine coming tomorrow as well. Tomorrow the tractors are they have a 2006 6715 John Deere. That one I think has about 2,500 hours on it.
Okay.
But there is a 1996 John Deere 7800 with 2,000 hours, two-wheel drive tractor, pristine showroom condition.
Okay.
As well as a 1998 7610 with just under 2,000 hours on it. Original owner, kept inside, very nice.
More good buying opportunities. I understand you booked a couple more farm auctions today, Brendan.
Yeah, sure did. I booked one at Edam, Saskatchewan, would be approximately 45 minutes northwest of us, and booked another one over at Maidstone, Saskatchewan here for July this year. Real nice low-hour lineup of New Holland and Ford Versatile equipment, and that'll be another nice auction to attend.
More nice buying opportunities. One last question for you, Brendan. How many miles you put on your pickup every year up there?
Well, we have a few different ones. The ones that go to the auctions, they see quite a few miles. We've been over north of Virden, Manitoba this year, and down southeast of Regina, and over into Hayter, Alberta. You've been following us. You know we've been putting on a lot of miles. But
you guys ramble, but do a great job up there. Again, hats off, Brendan, and yeah, we'll be following you and talking to you soon.
Sounds great, Peter. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, you bet, Brendan. Good to visit with you.
Thank you.